Welcome back to CEO Central. Well, we've just come back from a very successful conference at the Gold Coast Convention and Exhibition Centre. Just a terrific few days where the industry got together, networked the old-fashioned way and talked about many of the key issues that are facing us at the moment. And of course, mandatory pre-commitment, the Gillard-Wilkie deal was uppermost on people's minds. I'll get to that in a second. For the first time in living memory, maybe for the first time ever, our conference was opened by the Premier of New South Wales, Barry O'Farrell. That was terrific to hear his very warm and encouraging words at the conference opening. Great to see George Souris, our Minister, up there as well, mingling with the thousands of clubbies. As I said, talking about the main issues, learning a little bit, attending our terrific education program up there and going to the trade show, where our industry supporters, the people who in many ways allow our clubs to tick, were there selling their wares, and I know that they also got a lot out of our conference. Obviously, everybody was talking about mandatory pre-commitment for good reason. We're fighting bad policy, ill-conceived, something that if it ever comes to pass will kill our industry, and that's why we are fighting so hard. And look, there's just been so much attention on this issue over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Obviously the media looking at what the AFL had to say just before their grand final created a media storm. The NRL obviously having a strong view on this. Comments made on Channel 9 by commentators. People are allowed to have a view and they're allowed to support us and they're allowed to support their clubs, and it seems as though Andrew Wilkie and Nick Xenophon believe that you should shut up unless you're going to support them. Well, I mean, the world's not like that, and obviously people who know this policy for what it is, people who care about their clubs, people who are worried about the devastation that mandatory pre-commitment will wreak upon our industry and upon our communities are now speaking up. The media are following. Lots of column inches devoted to this issue, mandatory pre-commitment. Lots of attention on what will Andrew Wilkie do if he doesn't get his way. Look, Andrew Wilkie's not exactly making this clear. He's saying quite often that he's going to unseat the government and force us all back to an election, but then when asked what this actually means in practice, he struggles a bit. So look, I think that attention is going to continue until there is some kind of resolution. Just to reflect on where we're at in this campaign, It's Un-Australian has now evolved into won't work, will hurt. We're now spreading the word that this policy won't work. Problem gamblers will be the first in line for a card. They'll set unrealistically high limits or none at all. If they get sick of that, they'll jump online at one of the thousands of online casinos. It won't work, but it will hurt. Jobs will be lost, local businesses will suffer, community groups and sporting teams will have their funding evaporate, and that is where the campaign is now heading. Politically, where do we stand? Well, obviously some disquiet amongst the government in Labor caucus. I think MPs in New South Wales and Queensland more than anywhere know that this policy is bad and shouldn't be supported, but they're bound by a contract that their Prime Minister has signed. The Coalition, well, they've been quite vocal in their opposition to the policy from the top down. Tony Abbott, Kevin Andrews, the Shadow Minister, Steve Ciobo, who's been speaking about this a lot, and on the national side as well, terrific support. Where are the independents? Well, there's been public comment made, and obviously I think they're weighing up the reality of legislation when that comes through, having a good look at that before declaring their position, and we're obviously talking to those individuals. Really, we don't know how this will end up. We're expecting legislation to be publicised either late in the year or early next year, and for legislation to be introduced into the House perhaps in February or March next year. Andrew Wilkie has said that if he doesn't get his legislation through Parliament, both houses, by May, then we're all going back to the polls. We're very happy with where we're at now in our campaign. Obviously public awareness is through the roof. Politicians understand our concerns. The general community do as well. Obviously there are those who oppose us, don't like poker machines, don't like clubs. Of course they're entitled to their view, but so are we, and we'll continue to prosecute that. Your support has been fantastic. We need more. We may need to escalate this campaign further. If legislation is introduced that delivers Andrew Wilkie everything that he wants. So be prepared for that. Clubs New South Wales and Clubs Australia will resource up for that, and we will do everything in our power to make sure that in the end, common sense prevails. Again, thanks for your support. Thanks for tuning in to CEO Central, and I'll see you next time.